Hi, my name's Chris Croats and welcome back to Basic. If you haven't watched the other videos leading up to this point, I highly recommend that you start at the beginning and work your way forward. But if you have, let's talk about drugs. After all, porn addiction and sex addiction, it really isn't about sex as much as it is about drugs. You see, we have drugs that are made in our brain or released in our brain when we view pornography or when we have sex, and that is really what the addiction is about. The first drug, and really maybe the most important drug to mention in sex addiction and pornography addiction, is dopamine. And we've already talked about dopamine before. Dopamine is that drug that gets released in our brains that communicates to our pleasure centers in our brain, is what tells us that, oh, that felt good or that tasted good. Now, dopamine is a very good thing. As you can imagine, we need to know, or our brain needs to know, what is good and what is bad. The problem with this is when dopamine is connected to sex or pornography, it can become a major problem. We've already discussed that it can become addictive. You can get addicted to dopamine, of that good feeling that you feel, but also dopamine craves novelty. It wants something new. That's the reason why, although pizza is great, I love pizza. Pizza tells my brain, oh, that tasted good. There's a reason why I don't eat pizza every day for every meal, is because it gets old after a while. And the same is true with pornography, is you always want something new. That's why most addicts don't stick to one scene or one actress or one video. It's always something new. And what we've seen with pornography addiction is that it's not just that they want something new, it's also that they want something different. You see, there's this progression towards the more taboo, the more explicit, and the more violent. And that's why today some of the most popular types of pornography are also the most violent and the most dangerous. Forming an addiction to dopamine can be a very dangerous thing. Something that we typically view as harmless, like viewing pornography, can actually lead to more violent crime over time. The second drug to talk about when it comes to pornography addiction is testosterone. Testosterone is typically found in males, and we have a large amount of it. And testosterone actually controls our sex desire, our desire to have sex. Now, the problem with testosterone when it comes to pornography use is that it not only drives us to seek out pornography, but it also gets released when you view pornography. So the more porn that you watch, the more porn you want to watch because of the increased levels of testosterone in your body. The third drug that we need to talk about that gets released in your brain while you watch pornography is norepinephrine. Your brain releases norepinephrine while you're watching pornography, and what that does is it gives you a heightened sense of awareness. You are more aware of what is going on around you with your five senses while you're watching pornography. Now, you might think, what's the problem with that? Well, studies have found that when you have norepinephrine, when you have adrenaline coursing through your body, you actually remember things better. That's why when something really good happens to you and you have a lot of adrenaline coursing through your body, or when something really bad or something traumatic happens, people tend to remember it better. Now, when you're watching pornography and your brain releases adrenaline into your body, it causes you to remember those images. They get seared onto your memory, and even if you wanted to forget it, you can't. Names, scenes, pictures, all these different acts that you're watching, they are getting seared into your memory. The fourth drug is oxytocin, and this is the cuddle drug. This is the drug that makes you feel connected to someone else, and this is typically the drug that makes us feel like we're falling in love with someone. Oxytocin gets released into our system when we're having sex, and that causes us to have a feeling of connectedness with our partner. And that makes sense because sex, after all, is the deepest level of intimacy we can possibly go to with another human being. Now, the problem with oxytocin and its connection to watching pornography is that we start feeling connected to those actresses or actors or the things that we're watching. We actually start falling in love. We feel connected to them. We have a deep level of intimacy with them, and that can be a real problem. The fifth and final drug that we need to talk about when it comes to pornography addiction is serotonin. Serotonin is what causes us to feel calmness or have that elevated mood. That's typically why after someone has sex, they actually are more cheerful. Your serotonin levels are typically what they're trying to medicate when you have symptoms like depression or anxiety. Again, the problem with serotonin is in some ways you can get addicted to it, or maybe the lack thereof. Because if you can't feel normal unless you have sex or unless you act out to pornography, that becomes a major problem. That you need something outside of yourself to feel normal or to feel like you. And so we have this cocktail of 5 drugs: dopamine, testosterone, norepinephrine, oxytocin, and serotonin. And this combination is deadly. It's not deadly in the sense that the combination of these drugs can somehow kill you. It doesn't work that way. But imagine if a drug addict was actually living in a drug factory. Because that's what the porn addict is doing. He or she is living in their own drug factory because these drugs are manufactured in our brains. These 5 drugs and how they manipulate our brain puts the addict on this cycle of trying to seek his or her next fix, much like a drug addict. In the next episode of Basic, we're going to talk about the cycle of addiction. What does addiction actually look like? What are some signs to see, and how does porn addiction actually work in the mind of the addict? But talking about drugs, can you see now why porn addiction is so difficult to break free from? Again, if you need help, please reach out. I get emails almost every day from addicts just like you or loved ones of addicts. If you're watching this, please reach out. We want to help you, and we've done it before. This has been Basic. My name is Chris Croats. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.